97% of people will never reach their full potential. They will talk about success, dream about wealth, and imagine a better future. But they will never step away from the habits, the thinking patterns, and the limitations that are keeping them stuck. They will stay comfortable. They will make excuses. They will convince themselves that success is for other people, but not for them. And that is why most people will never rise above mediocrity. Success is not about luck. It's not about talent. It's about mindset. The top 3%, the ones who build real wealth and lasting success, think differently, act differently, and make decisions that separate them from the crowd. If you want to succeed at the highest level, you have to walk away from the 97%. You have to stop thinking like them, acting like them, and living like them. The majority are not winning. They are surviving. They're going through life on autopilot, working jobs they hate, settling for less, avoiding discomfort, and convincing themselves that this is just the way life is. They surround themselves with people who are equally stuck, reinforcing the same limiting beliefs, the same excuses, the same mediocrity. And that is why they stay in the same place year after year. The 3% have figured something out that the rest of the world ignores. Success is not about working harder. It is about thinking differently. Most people are trapped by their environment. They are surrounded by people who think small, dream small, and live small. They have conversations about problems instead of opportunities. They talk about what they cannot do instead of what they can do. They focus on limitations instead of possibilities. The 3% remove themselves from that environment. They seek out people who think bigger, who expect more from themselves, who are committed to growth, because they understand that the people you surround yourself with will dictate your future. If you want to think differently, if you want to live differently, you have to be around people who challenge you to grow. The truth is, most people are not willing to do what it takes to succeed. They want success, but they are not willing to make the sacrifices required. They want wealth, but they are not willing to delay gratification. They want a better life, but they are not willing to leave behind the comfort of their current life. The 3% understand that you cannot create a new reality while holding on to the old one. You cannot rise while staying attached to comfort. You cannot grow while staying attached to familiarity. That is why they separate themselves from the 97%, because they know that most people will never commit fully. The 97% play it safe. They are obsessed with avoiding failure. They make decisions based on fear. They hold back because they are afraid of looking foolish. They avoid risk because they are afraid of losing. But the 3% operate differently. They understand that failure is part of the process. They know that you cannot succeed without risking failure. They have trained themselves to take action despite uncertainty. They know that most people will hesitate, overthink, and talk themselves out of opportunities. So they take action while others are still deciding. And that is why they win. The biggest difference between the 97% and the 3% is mindset. The majority are driven by fear. The minority are driven by possibility. The 97% think in terms of scarcity. They focus on what is missing, what is wrong, and what they lack. The 3% think in terms of abundance. They focus on what is possible, what is available, and what they can create. That difference in thinking creates a massive gap in results. Most people are playing not to lose. The 3% are playing to win. Most people are avoiding pain. The 3% are pursuing growth. That shift in mindset is what creates extraordinary success. Walking away from the 97% means you have to think differently, act differently, and expect more from yourself. It means you have to reject the idea that success is for other people. It means you have to stop blaming your circumstances, your past, and your environment, and start taking full responsibility for your future. It means you have to develop the kind of discipline and focus that most people are not willing to maintain. And that is why so few people succeed, because they are not willing to separate themselves from the thinking, habits, and excuses that are keeping the majority stuck. The 3% are not special. They have simply made a decision to operate differently, and that decision changes everything. The reason 97% of people stay stuck is because they are following the wrong blueprint. They are modeling their lives after people who are not winning. They are taking advice from people who are not successful. They are adopting habits from people who are just getting by. Most people's financial habits, career decisions, and lifestyle choices are influenced by the people around them. People who are part of the 97%. And that is why they stay stuck in the cycle of mediocrity. If you want to succeed, you have to stop following the crowd. You have to break away from the thinking patterns and behaviors that are keeping the majority trapped. The 97% are focused on survival. They are focused on getting through the week, paying their bills, and keeping things stable. Their goals are small because their thinking is small. They are more concerned with avoiding failure than they are with creating success. They are focused on protecting what they have instead of building something bigger. That is why most people live paycheck to paycheck, why most people are drowning in debt, and why most people never create real wealth. They are playing defense. They are operating from a scarcity mindset. The 3% are different because they play offense. They are not focused on surviving. They are focused on winning. They are not trying to protect what they have. They are trying to multiply it. Most people operate with a short-term mindset. They make decisions based on immediate gratification. They spend money they do not have to buy things they do not need to impress people who are not paying attention. They finance cars they cannot afford. They live in houses that stretch them financially. They spend their weekends partying or just laying around. Either way, they are wasting time because they think they have more of it than they actually do. The 3% think differently. They operate with a long-term mindset. They understand the power of compounding money, compounding effort, compounding discipline. They are willing to sacrifice comfort today for greater rewards tomorrow. That shift in mindset is why they create wealth while the majority stay broke. The 97% are controlled by their environment. If everyone around them is living paycheck to paycheck, they assume that is normal. If everyone around them is overweight, unhealthy, and out of shape, they assume that is normal. If everyone around them is negative, cynical, and full of excuses, they assume that is how life is supposed to be. But the 3% have learned how to take control of their environment. They understand that the people you surround yourself with will influence your thinking, your decisions, and your outcomes. They remove themselves from environments that keep them stuck. They are intentional about building relationships with people who are playing at a higher level. They surround themselves with people who challenge them, push them, and expect more from them. The majority are stuck because they never elevate their standards. They are comfortable with average. They are comfortable doing just enough to get by. They are comfortable working a job they do not love, living in a house they can barely afford, and settling for a lifestyle that does not excite them. The 3% are not comfortable with average. They expect more from themselves. They hold themselves to a higher standard. They do not settle for good enough. They aim for excellence. That shift in standards creates a massive gap in results. Most people are content with doing just enough to get by. The 3% are constantly raising the bar for themselves. Most people never succeed because they are waiting for permission. They are waiting for someone to tell them it is okay to go after their dreams. They are waiting for someone to give them a guarantee that things will work out. They are waiting for conditions to be perfect before they take action. The 3% are not waiting for permission. They do not need approval. They do not need certainty. They take action even when they do not have all the answers. They understand that success is not about knowing exactly how things will work out. It is about trusting yourself to figure it out as you go. They move while others are still hesitating. That is why they succeed while others stay stuck. The 97% are controlled by fear. Fear of failure, fear of embarrassment, fear of rejection. And because they are controlled by fear, they stay in their comfort zone. They avoid taking risks. They avoid difficult conversations. They avoid putting themselves in situations where they might lose. But the 3% are not fearless. They have simply trained themselves to act despite fear. They understand that fear is not a signal to stop. It is a signal that you are stepping into growth. The 97% retreat when they feel fear. The 3% push forward. That ability to take action despite fear is why they create opportunities while others are still thinking about it. Most people think success is about working hard. But working hard is not enough if you are working on the wrong things. Most people work hard, but they are working hard on low-value activities. They are working hard at jobs that will never create wealth. They are working hard to maintain a lifestyle that is built on debt. The 3% are strategic about where they put their effort. They focus on high-leverage activities, things that create long-term wealth, things that build systems, things that allow them to multiply their time and income. Most people are trading time for money. The 3% are building systems that make money even when they are not working. That shift in focus creates exponential results. The 97% are focused on income. They think that if they can just make more money, their problems will go away. But the 3% are not focused on income. They are focused on assets. They understand that wealth is not about how much you make. It is about how much you keep and multiply. They are focused on acquiring assets that generate cash flow. They are focused on building businesses, investing in real estate, and creating streams of passive income. Most people are stuck in the paycheck to paycheck cycle because they are focused on making money instead of building wealth. The 3% are playing a different game. Most people are stuck because they have never learned how to manage money. They spend everything they make. They take on debt to fund a lifestyle they cannot afford. They think that if they can just earn more money, their financial problems will go away. But the 3% know that wealth is not about how much you earn. It is about how you manage what you earn. They have learned how to live below their means. They have learned how to invest wisely. They have learned how to let their money work for them. That shift in financial discipline is why the 3% build wealth while the majority struggle financially their entire lives. The difference between the 97% and the 3% is not intelligence. It is not talent. It is not luck. It is mindset. The 3% have trained themselves to think differently, to act differently, and to expect more from themselves. They have developed the ability to delay gratification. They have learned how to operate with focus, discipline, and clarity. They have built the kind of internal strength that allows them to stay consistent, even when the results are not showing yet. That difference in mindset creates a massive gap in outcomes. Most people are struggling because they are operating with the wrong mindset. The 3% are succeeding because they have trained themselves to think and operate at a higher level. The 97% operate from a place of scarcity. They believe that resources are limited, that opportunities are rare, and that success is a matter of luck. They see someone else winning, and they assume that means less is available for them. They compete instead of collaborate. They protect instead of create. They focus on what they do not have instead of what they can build. The 3% think in terms of abundance. They understand that opportunities are everywhere. They know that money is not limited, it is created. They know that success is not a zero-sum game. They believe that success is not about taking from others. It is about creating value. And that difference in perspective allows them to create opportunities that others cannot see. Most people are controlled by comparison. They measure their success based on how they are doing relative to other people. They care more about looking successful than actually being successful. They buy things they cannot afford to impress people they do not even like. They live for validation. But the 3% are not driven by external approval. They are not focused on looking successful. They are focused on being successful. They are not worried about fitting in. They are focused on building something real. They understand that real success comes from internal alignment, not external validation. And that mindset allows them to stay focused while others are distracted by trying to keep up with appearances. The 97% are controlled by emotions. If they feel motivated, they work hard. If they feel tired, they slow down. If they feel discouraged, they quit. They allow their emotional state to dictate their action. The 3% have trained themselves to act independently of their emotion. They work when they are tired. They execute when they are uninspired. They push forward even when they feel like quitting. They understand that success is not about how you feel. It is about what you do. That ability to separate emotion from action is why they are consistent when others are inconsistent. Most people waste time. They say they are busy, but they are not productive. They fill their days with low-value tasks. They check their email 20 times a day. Check that clock every 5 minutes. But the 3% are ruthless about time. They understand that time is their most valuable asset. They protect their schedule. They eliminate distractions. They create systems that allow them to maximize their time. They know that success is not about working more hours. It is about getting more done in fewer hours. They are not busy. They are effective. Most people think wealth is about working harder. But the 3% know that wealth is about leverage. They understand that hard work alone will not make you rich. They know that you cannot create massive wealth by trading time for money. They focus on building systems that generate income without their constant involvement. They build businesses. They invest in assets. They create intellectual property. They multiply their income streams. Most people are stuck in the cycle of working harder and harder for diminishing returns. The 3% have learned how to make money work for them. That shift from labor to leverage is why they build wealth while the majority struggle. Most people are focused on saving money. They think that if they can just spend less, they will get ahead. They clip coupons. They look for discounts. They focus on cutting costs. But the 3% are not focused on saving. They are focused on creating. They understand that you cannot cut your way to wealth. They focus on increasing their income, building new income streams, and multiplying their money. They are not worried about how much they spend. They are focused on how much they earn. That shift in focus from defense to offense is why they build wealth while others are trying to save their way to financial security. The 97% are risk averse. They want guarantees. They want certainty. They want to know exactly how things will work out before they take action. And because of that, they hesitate. They delay. They talk themselves out of opportunities. The 3% are not reckless. They are calculated. But they understand that success requires risk. They know that you cannot grow without stepping into uncertainty. They know that the best opportunities come with no guarantees. They have trained themselves to act despite uncertainty. They are not attached to the outcome. They are focused on the process. And that ability to take action despite uncertainty is why they create opportunities while others are still waiting for the right time. Most people settle for comfort. They choose jobs that are secure. They choose lifestyles that are predictable. They avoid situations that stretch them because they do not want to feel uncomfortable. But the 3% are not looking for comfort. They are looking for growth. They understand that growth requires discomfort. They know that in order to get to the next level, they have to step into situations where they are not fully prepared. They are willing to take on challenges that force them to adapt and improve. That willingness to lean into discomfort is why they grow while others stay stagnant. Most people avoid confrontation. They are afraid to have difficult conversations. They are afraid to set boundaries. They avoid speaking up because they do not want to upset other people. But the 3% are not afraid of confrontation. They have learned how to communicate clearly and directly. They set boundaries. They hold people accountable. They know that in order to lead, you have to be willing to have uncomfortable conversations. They are not rude, but they are direct. They are not aggressive, but they are firm. They have learned that success requires strength, not weakness. That willingness to hold people accountable is why they build strong teams and strong businesses. The 97% are focused on consumption. They spend money as soon as they earn it. They buy cars, clothes, and gadgets to feel successful. But the 3% are focused on investment. They put their money into things that grow. They invest in themselves. They invest in their businesses. They invest in assets that generate cash flow. They understand that success is not about how much you earn. It is about how much you multiply. Most people stay broke because they are focused on spending. The 3% build wealth because they are focused on multiplying. The 97% think success is about luck. They think the people who are winning just got lucky. They convince themselves that wealthy people were born into it or that successful people had advantages that they didn't have. But the 3% understand that success is about strategy. It is about habits. It is about execution. They do not rely on luck. They create opportunities through action. They know that luck is not something you wait for. It is something you create through preparation and consistent effort. Most people are waiting for life to get easier. The 3% are making life easier through disciplined execution. The difference between the 97% and the 3% is not luck. It is not talent. It is not resources. It is mindset. The 97% think like consumers. The 3% think like creators. The 97% operate from fear. The 3% operate from strength. The 97% settle for comfort. The 3% are driven by growth, and that difference in mindset creates a massive difference in results. Most people are stuck because they are thinking, acting, and living like the 97%. The 3% are winning because they have trained themselves to think, act, and operate differently. That shift in mindset is what creates wealth and success. The 97% are trapped in the cycle of comfort. They work just hard enough to maintain their current lifestyle, but not hard enough to elevate it. They are comfortable with where they are, even if they're not happy. They tell themselves that things are fine. They convince themselves that they are doing better than most people, so there is no need to push harder. But the 3% know that comfort is the enemy of progress. They understand that the moment you stop growing, you start dying. They are not interested in being comfortable. They are interested in being exceptional. That mindset is why they continue to improve while the majority stay stuck. Most people are waiting for motivation. They tell themselves that they will work harder when they feel inspired. They will start their business when the timing is right. They will